The dusty gravel road stretches like a memory, winding through endless wheat fields that whisper stories older than time itself. Sarah Matthews understands that returning home isn't a simple geographical journey, but a complex emotional excavation of familial landscapes both remembered and forgotten. Her hands grip the steering wheel with a quiet determination, fingers tracing invisible maps of unspoken narratives that have shaped her understanding of belonging and identity. Nebraska's rural terrain unfolds like a complex tapestry of human experience, where every abandoned farmhouse and weathered fence line carries the weight of generational stories. The landscape itself becomes a silent witness to the intricate dance of family secrets, holding memories more deeply than any human archive could preserve. Sarah recognizes that her journey is not about uncovering dramatic revelations, but about understanding the nuanced threads that connect generations across time and silence. Growing up, she learned that some stories are not told. They are carefully managed, strategically hidden beneath layers of protective silence. Her grandmother's tight-lipped expressions, her father's reluctant glances, the way conversations would subtly shift when certain names emerged. These were the intricate signals of a family mythology constructed through careful omission and unspoken understanding. Each gesture, each momentary pause, represented a complex negotiation of pain and preservation. Silence, she discovered, is not an absence but a profound language of its own. It carries emotional frequencies that words cannot capture, transmitting complex histories through subtle vibrations of unacknowledged experience. The prairie around her becomes a metaphorical canvas, vast and seemingly empty, yet teeming with unresolved narratives waiting to be understood, interpreted, and ultimately transformed. Her pilgrimage is not about judgment or accusation, but about compassionate comprehension. She understands that generational pain is not a linear narrative, but a complex ecosystem of interconnected experiences, where each story influences and reshapes the others. The road beneath her car becomes a conduit of memory, connecting past and present through its dusty, persistent trajectory. As she approaches her hometown, memories blur like heat waves on the horizon. The small white house, where her grandparents lived, stands slightly tilted, its peeling paint revealing layers of accumulated history. This landscape is not just geographical but emotional, a terrain of subtle wounds and unexpected resilience. Every crack in the foundation, every weathered windowpane tells a story of endurance and quiet survival. What emerges is not a tale of dramatic confrontation, but of gentle, profound understanding. Family secrets are not impenetrable walls, but delicate bridges waiting to be carefully traversed. Each mile traveled represents a step towards healing, not just for herself, but for the collective memory of her lineage. The journey becomes an act of collective remembrance, a ritual of compassionate acknowledgement. The quiet road home transforms from a physical pathway into a metaphysical journey of empathy. Sarah discovers that redemption is not about erasing painful histories, but about witnessing them with grace, about creating space for complexity and nuance. Her approach is not about resolution, but about understanding, a subtle yet powerful form of reconciliation that honors the intricate emotional landscapes of her family. In this vast Nebraska terrain, she learns that healing rarely announces itself dramatically. Instead, it arrives softly, like wheat bending in a summer breeze, persistent, patient, transformative. Each moment of her journey represents a delicate negotiation between remembering and releasing, between honoring past pain and creating space for future understanding. Her story becomes a testament to the power of quiet resilience, a reminder that the most profound healing often occurs in the most unexpected moments of gentle recognition. The road continues, stretching endlessly before her, a metaphor for the ongoing process of understanding, of connecting, of transforming inherited narratives into something more compassionate and whole. In rural Nebraska, over 37% of small towns have experienced complete population collapse in the last 3 decades, leaving behind landscapes of silent memory and forgotten stories. Our story begins with Elizabeth Harrow, a woman who carries the weight of generations in her carefully measured steps, returning to a hometown that exists more in whispers than in physical reality. On a crisp autumn morning, with golden cornfields stretching like forgotten promises across the horizon, she drives a dusty rental car down a road that seems to remember her more than she remembers herself. The town of Millbrook appears first as a mirage, a collection of weathered buildings and empty storefronts that stand as silent witnesses to decades of gradual abandonment. Elizabeth's hands grip the steering wheel, her knuckles white with an emotion that hovers between anticipation and profound reluctance. She knows that every mile brings her closer to a family history that has been carefully buried, not just in physical ground, but in layers of unspoken narratives. Her grandmother's farmhouse sits at the end of a gravel road, its paint peeling like the layers of a story waiting to be told. The structure itself seems to lean slightly, as if exhausted from carrying generational secrets. Elizabeth understands that returning is not just a geographical journey, but an archaeological expedition into her own emotional landscape. The house has been uninhabited for decades, yet it feels alive with a presence that transcends physical occupation. What makes a place home? Is it the physical structure, the memories embedded in its walls, or the complex tapestry of human experiences that have unfolded within its boundaries? For Elizabeth, home has always been a complicated concept, something more abstract than concrete, more felt than seen. Her family's history in Millbrook is not a straightforward narrative of agricultural success or community belonging, but an intricate web of suppressed emotions and carefully maintained distances. As she steps onto the creaking wooden porch, Elizabeth realizes that her journey is about more than personal reconciliation. It's about understanding the subtle mechanisms by which small communities absorb and transform personal tragedies. The economic decline of rural Nebraska is not just about statistics and economic shifts, but about human stories of resilience, adaptation, and the profound complexity of belonging. The interior of the farmhouse is a time capsule: dust-covered furniture, faded photographs, and objects that seem suspended between memory and forgetting. Each item tells a fragment of a story: a chipped teacup, a worn family Bible, a collection of letters tied with a faded ribbon. These are not just objects, but repositories of unspoken narratives, silent testimonies to lives lived between hope and resignation. Elizabeth's research as a sociologist has prepared her intellectually for this moment, but nothing could have prepared her emotionally. She understands that rural communities, like Millbrook, are not simply disappearing. They are transforming. The exodus is not a failure, but a complex negotiation between tradition and survival. Young people leave not out of rejection, but out of a pragmatic understanding of changing economic landscapes. Her family's story is emblematic of broader societal shifts. Her grandfather, a farmer who believed in the promise of generational land ownership, watched as agricultural economics transformed from a lifestyle to an increasingly corporate enterprise. The small family farm, once the backbone of Midwestern identity, became economically unsustainable, forcing migrations that rewrote familial and community narratives. In the kitchen, Elizabeth discovers a box of old letters that become her portal into understanding. Letters from her mother to her grandmother, written during different decades, reveal a nuanced story of women navigating complex emotional terrains. These are not just personal correspondences, but anthropological documents that capture the subtle negotiations of rural feminine identity across generations. The photographs she finds tell a different story than the one she grew up hearing. They reveal connections, tensions, and unacknowledged emotional landscapes. A picture of her grandmother standing alone in a wheat field suggests a strength that was never verbally acknowledged. Another shows a group of women from the community, their expressions revealing more complexity than any verbal narrative could capture. Her exploration is not just personal, but becomes a broader meditation on memory, place, and belonging. Rural communities, like Millbrook, are not dying, they are evolving. They are spaces where personal and collective histories intersect, where individual stories become part of a larger, more complex narrative of cultural transformation. As the day progresses, Elizabeth moves through the house with the precision of an archaeologist, each discovered object adding another layer to her understanding. She is not just recovering a personal history, but mapping the emotional geography of a community that has been frequently misunderstood and oversimplified. The light shifts, casting long shadows across rooms that have been silent for decades. Elizabeth understands now that her return is not about finding definitive answers, but about creating space for understanding. The stories of Millbrook, of her family, her community, are not linear narratives of success or failure, but intricate webs of human resilience. In the fading light, she sits on the porch, watching the landscape that has shaped generations of her family. The cornfields sway, a golden reminder of both continuity and change. Her journey home is not about resolution, but about recognition, recognizing the complexity of rural life, the depth of familial connections, and the profound ways in which personal histories are always larger than individual experiences. Millbrook is not an ending, but a beginning. It is a reminder that places live not just in their physical manifestation, but in the stories we carry, the memories we preserve, and the understanding we cultivate. Elizabeth's return is a testament to the enduring power of place, memory, and the unbreakable threads that connect us to our origins. The dusty gravel road stretches like a memory, winding through endless wheat fields that whisper stories older than the woman driving slowly through them. Sarah Matthews knows that returning home isn't about distance. It's about confronting the silence that has haunted her family for generations. Her hands grip the steering wheel, fingers tracing invisible patterns of unspoken narratives. This small Nebraska town, with its weathered farmhouses and forgotten storefronts, holds secrets deeper than its prairie roots. Each mile brings her closer to understanding a family history that has been carefully buried beneath layers of protection and pain. Growing up, Sarah learned early that some stories are not told, they are endured. Her grandmother's tight-lipped expressions, her father's reluctant glances, the way conversations would suddenly stop when certain names were mentioned. These were the subtle signals of a complex family mythology she was never meant to fully comprehend. But silence, she discovered, is not absence. It is a language all its own, rich with unexpressed emotions and complex histories. Every abandoned farmhouse, every overgrown field she passes carries fragments of a narrative waiting to be understood.